Hello, welcome to the podcast. In a world increasingly focused on metrics, test scores, and career readiness, what does it truly mean for students to be successful? Today, we are exploring that question with a leader whose school is built on foundation of character, faith, and academic excellence. We are honored to have Dr. Jack Farmer, head of school at Berrien Baptist Academy in Northern California. Dr. Farmer, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
We would love to understand how your journey in education started and how did you end up being the head of, this school and why this school?
Yeah. So I was probably your typical high school boy. I probably could have went to college, but by the time I was done with college, education itself had not captured my mind. So it didn't spark my interest in the future. So I went into the military. Spent about 12 years there until an injury said I had to end my career. But in there, I learned a lot about the care for people, the influence. I did a technical job where I fixed radars for a while for the air traffic control. And then I moved over to more fun, what I like to say is fun, going into the infantry, that type of thing, rapid promotions to take care of your family. But then with the injury, by that time, I had already started my journey in education, getting my own degrees, certifications, those type of things, because I saw a gap in young people entering the military as I became a middle-aged person in the military that just lacked fundamental skills that come with basic education that I luckily had received it from a very good school where I grew up. By my faith, I found myself in a faith-based school. I worked half of my career so far. I've been here since 2002. My first up to 2013, so 2002 to 2013, I was in the classroom teaching history and technology and physical education. So wearing many hats. And that led me, and I was asked to pursue and consider administration, and I was moved over and eventually became the lead administrator for the entire academy.
Wow, thank you for the service though,
Thank you. It was an honor.
for sure. And the fact that you've been in the same school and the system since 2002 just tells me how many different changes you've seen and witnessed. You saw when the internet just came in and the computers were coming in to all one-on-one devices and the whole pandemic that happened to the AI revolution. I
Oh,
think
yeah, absolutely.
over this period of time, the big picture keeps changing, right? When you think about students on graduation day right now, what does success looks like to you beyond their academic transcripts or college acceptance letters?
Yeah, I really am. I tell parents that come and talk to me that if we prepare your student for college, we failed.
Yeah.
First and foremost, because the jobs that they're going to have post college, I can't see. In 2008, there was this video that came out, Did You Know? And it was, on social media, it was trending. And it was like by 2020, your graduates will have jobs that have not even entered the curriculum space of schools, those kind of things. So as I came into administration, my mind was on what are the skills they need to survive in a world that we know isn't going to take steps backwards. There's going to be always a need for a mechanic, a plumber, AC unit. So, you got your basic technologies there, but you also are going to need someone that's an engineer. You're going to need someone who's a technician in the ability to even put a podcast together like this. But you're also going to need all those to have critical thinking skills, communication skills, and those type of things so that they're true problem solvers and able to communicate and influence in society, no matter what job looks like when they take it.
I couldn't agree more, right? Like critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity adding on to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. In fact, we're actually introducing because we don't we we can't afford necessarily a full-time PR person. We're actually teaching our students to use social media to become our PR team so that a part of their class is to go capture student life and build our social media off of it. And then their work, the best work of the week, gets selected and becomes the post for the next week.
That's a brilliant, insightful way. I wish more school leaders would do that because it also gives them a project, and it's something which I believe kids are far better than we are in creating the social media presence that's needed.
And they also have buy-in, immediate buy-in that they're the ones influencing buy into our culture.
100%. And I think this is the 21st century skill set in general, right? Like what we discussed, the creativity, the collaboration, the critical thinking,
Yep.
even problem solving, even technological literacy to a certain degree, which is working with social media, working with different products. So, how do we look to create more critical thinking? How do we create students? What is something which you did say back in 2005 and 2008, and what you're doing in 2025, where we can teach them the foundations of it, where we can add more value? What has changed, and what's those examples like for you?
Yeah, so we have a phrase around here that we use all the time called timeless and timely. And we also use toys to tools. So one of the things that we look at is what are some of the timely things that we need to bring up to timeliness.
Yeah.
So we've brought back logic
Yeah.
as a course that our freshmen take. Because if it's the very nature of am I thinking correctly so that I can enter problem solving. So that's one of the things that we have done that's timely, but we've brought it up into timeliness because again, those type of things, they're learning how to use the tools of today, not as toys, but as tools
Yeah.
to create influence in our culture. That has definitely changed because before it was, can you articulate in a normal word processing format if you used a computer at all or something to that effect? And it was so analog driven. And today, we're not a nation of readers. We have to accept that fact. We've gone back almost to Socrates, where it's visual and then talk about it, learn. What do I see and what discussion comes from it?
Yeah. So, what are the tools that are you being used right now in your academy?
Okay, well, of course, you use the Grammarly to help supplement the teaching of grammar rules. Every time it pops up, we require them to turn in the rough draft with all the rules displayed that they violated. And then we allow them, and they have to turn in their rough draft with their finished product. And one of the things they do is they give us a little paragraph that just explains the rationale on why they made the changes they made
Yeah.
off the recommendations. So they're not just mindlessly using it either. They're doing the thinking, not the tool. Another thing that we use is we use Magic School, which is kind of a hub program with multiple bots built into it that act like a chat GPT
Yeah.
or a Canva or something to that effect for the students. And what we do is we teach them that that's your research assistant, that's not your brain. So we teach them the proper prompts to put in to pull information quicker than they could probably do it even doing their own data searches.
Yeah.
So it populates up. Then we teach them to critically think through, is this a valid source? And then from that, how do I use it in my topic research? So a lot of our homework is centered around questions that are problem solving or project-based learning. And then from time to time, we do still make them right, but we also let them create medias of their choice so that they can use their natural inclinations to say, this is how I would communicate what I've learned.
I think that would be a brilliant idea. And tying it back to your PR strategy, which you guys are using, the communication of choice has changed. I think more kids are speaking in the language of TikTok rather than in the traditional sense.
Right. And so we that's why we do still make them do the traditional writing. And we start with that foundation. If they want to do a podcast and they're doing it for a school grade, we want to see the transcript
Yeah.
written out, not IDK'd all the way, that type of thing.
And I'm guessing this solves for problem solving, this solves for critical thinking. How how do we look at communication? How do we look at collaboration piece? How do we look at teamwork and working together? Are we doing it in projects? Are we doing something else about it?
Yeah, so take our seniors, for instance. Um, this year, the juniors will take for the first time what the seniors used to do in one project. It's really too big, and we've learned that to get the
Yeah.
quality we want. But they have been doing a capstone in the perception of our faith's belief system to what research in the world says. So we take current events that are ongoing, and they choose in their junior year to begin researching not the news event itself, but the topic in general as a society issue in our society. And then they trace that through what everybody out there is saying and cull it down into a literature review and preparation. From that point, they're doing this natural research using all the tools, AI, the support learning pieces to polish up and prepare a scientific based research design. And then in their senior year, they execute that from a qualitative perspective. And then they find their findings and everything else. And now they have to build a presentation of their findings from the platform of their choice. Let us review it, see the quality of it, see what was communicated, and then we bring a panel of three together, almost to do like a peer review of would we put this out as a product of our outcomes, and the one that gets the highest peer review presents at graduation.
And how does families take it? Like, are the
They love
family
it.
they do?
They do, because they know that their child's already prepared all the way through their fourth year of college with the skills they need to go out and impact their society, and they have a product as a kid that I'm sorry, as a student that they can take and show a future employer. Now, one thing I did leave out, and then you asked about, and it was critical, is they do this in three-person teams.
Yeah.
So it's because you don't ever see a research finding published by a solo doctor. And if you do, you will probably be worried about it. It's always research teams.
Yeah.
And that's how they're going to work and live in their life. So why would we not do that now, especially with the upper grades who have already shown a proficiency towards solo work of meeting the foundational elements that we just society needs in general.
And I mean, this is something which comes in, right? Because the what I'm hearing is these are the foundations which they can take to college. These are the foundations they can take to a job if that's where they're going directly after high school.
Right. And
And
well, even into a job, because post college, eventually somebody's going to go to a job. So, like I tell the parents, if we prepare them for college, we failed. If we prepare them to go all the way through college into life successfully, then we've met our mission.
yeah, because I think lifelong learners is something which I believe on. I really think that as adults too, we keep learning and the learning never ends. Plus, the job in itself is changing so quickly and so rapidly that
Right.
every 2 years there's going to be a new job that's coming in. And that's what most people are saying. And that's somewhat happening because when I was growing up, I none of us wanted to be a YouTuber. Right now, if we go ahead and ask kids what they would want to be, a good majority of them would say, "Hey, I want to be Mr. Beast. I would want to be on TikTok. I would want to uh, have those professions which didn't exist back in the day."
Right. So imagine in the 1980s when I went through high school, you would have a speech class and you were almost out of your mind when you had to stand up and speak in front of 20, 30 people. These children at 14, 15 years old, unregulated, without schools that are really intentional about this process, are becoming public speakers on a global perspective, potentially.
Yeah.
So why were we waiting for a college to train them or a on-the-job training OJT methodology to take place when we should be impacting them now with the critical processes they need, that if they're going to do that and put themselves out there, they're doing it with a quality, not just another clutter in the cloud space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we sometimes underestimate the clarity of thought that's needed to be done. I
Right.
just try to put too much on it. So that's the other question, right? Like, how do you take out time for what's because all these skills take time. And I think our biggest constraint that's always come across is that as a teacher, I had a constraint that we only have limited number of hours in the school and we can't do so much. We would want to do so much more than what we have. And how do we manage all of that? Do we have a specific period for it? Do we carve out time?
Okay, so we do have specific periods that create the progressive unfolding of the skills towards something like that capstone. So in eighth grade, they start with a technology class that's specifically for these are the tools you're going to have to use in your high school career as you stay with us. And then, of course, in ninth grade, they have that logic class where they're concentrating on thinking and everything else. In 10th grade, we do public speaking, and we'll ask them to do more, less live in the classroom, though that's practice, for the purpose of doing a podcast or doing a video podcast or audio, doing a 60-second reels, anything of those natures.
Yeah.
And then 11th grade, like I said, we figured it was too strong for 12th grade, so we just broke it apart so we can slow it down and let it really um, become a true part of who they are. The ability to research, discern, synthesize, and then recreate a product of quality from the massive clutter that's out there.
And this brings
And of course, AI is undergirding all of this.
how many different AI tools do you guys use, or Magic School is the cornerstone for it?
Yeah, Magic School is a cornerstone, and like I said, and we also use EBSCOhost. And what people don't realize is that was an AI. We don't call it that, but it was an algorithm that brought information to us, and it called the articles to us.
Yeah.
Now we're using a internet-based program, ChatGPT, Google's version, whoever's version out there. We use the Magic School because it calls in educational resources, and we can even tell it think like EBSCOhost
Yeah.
or like a 20-year research assistant. So we're even teaching them how to program the brain of the algorithm for their outcome.
I think it's important. AI literacy, I think, is one of those topics which doesn't get spoken about enough. And building with the AI is something that almost we have to do it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So the second part of what you asked is how do I reduce, because now you're thinking this sounds like a lot of homework. This sounds a lot of everything else. But when you partner together a history teacher and an English teacher and they review the historical setting behind the novel
Yeah.
along with the novel, uh, both teachers can grade it. They both can review the outcome product and take their portion and offer the grade from it. So I've reduced it from 2 assignments to one. We also limit the number of assignments that can be given at any time, so that you come to a point in which you cap out on the number of points you're allowed to give in grading for the quarter so that everybody ends with the same number of grade points available to them from class to class to class, which keeps our grading consistency because some teacher pairs will do a larger thing, some will do a couple of smaller ones in building the skill. So it really depends on their grade level, how much development they've had. So they get larger products as they get older, they get much more snapshot. Can we quickly give them feedback? And then every teacher is required to give these were your strengths. These are areas in which you could do better or improve, and these are the tips on how to do that.
Yeah.
So, and then they get their grade. We don't even worry about so much the nicknoid of you lost so many points in this category, so many points in this category, that type of thing, because it should be embedded in the feedback.
And that also makes sense on the larger scheme of things, right? Because if you've already, I love the fact that two subjects can be pinged in together and you can do work together on that. History and language, like, yeah, for sure. I think most people should be doing it. I wish more curriculum was doing it. I'm glad you guys have taken that step. And it also kind of goes towards where I was coming in, right? Like, and hinting towards is the burnout that takes place because of the social media, because of the everything else which is
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, so the burnout is comes to this. Our faith um, in modern times has lost a initial perspective. So yeah, we're Christians, and we come from the Jewish faith originally, and they were huge on Sabbath rest,
Yeah,
and it was tied to a particular day. So I'm not saying a particular day, I'm talking the concept of rest. Uh, our modern church, our Christianity, has kind of forgotten that. Our school's kind of taking it back and reclaiming it over to us. So from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. every night, Monday through Thursday, we have zero communications from us as a school out so that you as a family can rest. And then we have and we ask for no communication back so we can do the same and have family time and rest. In that, we know that we don't want that time for you to be inundated with a lot of homework that's going to generate questions. So again, the reduction of it. We emphasize one good question can be worth four A, B, C, D option questions.
yeah,
That kind of thing, which is just tedious. If you're doing projects, you got phased steps, so you can have that spaced. In our upper school, where this primarily takes place, we run an A-B schedule. So if you have an A class, you have the next day before you have that class again when something's due. So that also helps them learn to time manage, which is a skill for life.
for sure.
Uh, and and then on the weekends from 6 p.m. Friday to 6 a.m. Sunday, our 6 a.m. Monday, we ask for no communications again so that everybody gets the entire weekend to be a family, a student, somebody enjoying leisure so that you're not working. Even the students are, in essence, doing their version of work the same as we as adults do. I mean, that's their stage of life. This is your duty, this is your
Yeah.
employment. And I tell them all the time, and your paycheck will one day come to you in the form of a degree or a graduation diploma. You know, and how well you do that will also determine the dollar sign or the number of digits before that period on your paycheck.
It's quite refreshing to hear it from a school leader. The fact that there's going to be a break and the fact that we're going to be actively effective about our leisure time and protect that because we're
Yep.
so bombarded with information from all across, right? Like, I think earlier we would still have information sources which are limited. We would have to go to libraries, we would have to go to Britannica Encyclopedia, or at best Google search, right? Like, and even Google search was a lot. Right now we are bombarded with social media, we are bombarded with AI, chat GPT throwing us different things, figuring
Yeah,
out.
well, yeah, it's like our cell phones were given to us for the opportunity to make life easier for us in case I was away from home and needed to communicate because I'm like stranded somewhere or something. And then it turned into now people have an expectation that if they call, I should be there because it's supposed to be on my hip. But we tell people to turn it off. We encourage our employees never to put their emails on it.
What?
Uh, because we believe that that just triggers you into work mode, which automatically, if you don't answer it, it's still going to be on your head. It's going to be burning back there somewhere. So you're slightly distracted from your family when you should be, hey, you need the time to just zone out, that type of thing. And we're teaching our students to do the same thing by modeling it for them, but also encourage them that you can't have it constantly there. Another thing is that we have to see is that within work itself as an adult that if I'm a research team, if I'm a group of engineers working on a project, or heck, if I'm a group of editors trying to put together a book,
Yeah.
we're going to have difference of opinions. And those differences of opinions a long time ago stopped when you went home. You didn't have somebody to continue the conversation. Our children today have that all the time, and the parent never knows the conversation's going on because it's in a social media, it's in a text message, and it's almost impossible for the parent who's also being bombarded to keep up with what the students doing because they're drowning themselves in what they're doing. So we're trying to teach our whole community. Uh, you need space to let it take root, to then do the next stage of the brain power work using the technology tools efficiently to reduce your workload to create space for rest.
There were three pointers which you just said, right? Like, and it just makes me think from a student perspective, I absolutely understand where it's coming in from because we need rest. There's too much happening, but it's very difficult from a student to switch it off. Uh,
It's incredibly difficult. Yeah, because we see it, and I just released I do a morning podcast to my school daily, every day, and one of the things that I talked about recently on the podcast was the dopamine addiction that comes with social media and and the lack of impulse control in an adolescent
yeah.
uh, to know how to withdraw to regulate that, which is why they become so dependent on um, the constant doom scrolling, um, the zoning out. Hey, I was going to clean my house, but I picked up my phone. You know that kind of lifestyle, and we want them to learn now how to begin regulating that one as a way to begin mitigating it off their minds. So there are times when we don't use technology at all because you need to paper plan this as a whiteboard exercise, if you will, with your teammates before you begin using the technology to go forward.
One of the things which I do is I still use sheets of papers first. I write everything down which I have to, put my laptop on the side, my phone on the side, and
Yeah.
and then type everything back. And most of my colleagues are like, "Hey,
Right. So what we do in that process, like what you're talking about doing, what I did this morning, I have a little notebook pad and I spent 2 hours on the notebook paper before I even engaged the emails. Um, is looking at for the students, there's times when we don't even want you to bring your device in the room.
yeah."
So there's a temptation there. And it's what you were saying was I put my laptop over here, I put my phone over here so that if it's here and it buzzes, that whatever it is going to cause me to want to pick it up and pull it. And for them, it's when I get that writer block or I get that creativity space where I my brain actually needs to pause
Yeah.
to declutter to pick the next creative process step. And what they do instead is because they can't understand yet that silence time, they go, "Oh, I can't think of what to do, so let me," and they pick it up and they go to social media. And now it's now they're not even on subject anymore. So
Yeah, I think uh, I would wish something which I'm doing personally. I would wish if we could incorporate some time to get bored, and
yes,
because that's
creates creativity. It really does. And that's something that I have been thinking about, like you just mentioned. How do we incorporate boredom back into the school beyond listening to the teacher's voice?
I think that's the highlight of my podcast, beyond listening to the teacher's voice. And it happens, right? Like, and we have all zoned out. And the burnout question also comes towards teachers, right? Like, from teacher point of view, how does that change? Do you do professional development for teachers? Do you bring in a counselor for teachers? Do you look at different things?
Oh yeah, we do a lot of extensive training. I would say that probably, you know, a school might normally in our type of schooling, faith-based schooling, that we have general rules of thumb like any business does in industry for this is a healthy budget. And professional development usually ends up as a very, very small sliver of the percentage down at the bottom. And I'm not going to say ours isn't one of the smaller percentages because there's just things that absolutely have to take the dominance on that. Payroll, your number one expense
Yeah.
in the human resource industry, um, as well it should be. But what happens is our industry standard is like 1 to 2%. We earmark 5%, so that our teachers, if they want to take a course online in creativity, because the influencer is also trying to make a living, has put a price tag on it, then we can pay for it. So they don't have to. So our teachers spend $0 unless they want to go even beyond to a certain point for continuing education, to include even going back to college.
Yeah. This one, I'm going to ask you two main questions, and then before we end this, one of the things that I'm going to ask, if you have to imagine a kid, and you've already answered it beyond it, if a kid who's listening or a parent who's listening, uh, what's that once, and if you could do a magic wand and give one particular skill set to anything, right? Like to any kid, what would that skill set be? If it has to be just one.
Okay, 10 years ago, I would have told you reading comprehension. Um, and that would be number two now. Number one that really has placed it, and I used to think that, and the reason why I say this, and I say it this way, is because reading comprehension used to lead to critical thinking. I'm convinced now because of where we start in society with our engagement on information, critical thinking is number one, and it gives us the ability to comprehend what we read in the right way, which then leads to number three, the ability to communicate. And I still believe it starts with written form that leads to some kind of creative product.
Amazing. So, if you could take away one major thing from the mainstream culture and education and just change it completely, what would that be?
Ooh, restrictions. Yeah, and what I mean by that is we have so much red tape in education because we have these accrediting agencies, and don't be wrong, I said as a commissioner on one of them. So I'm saying this tongue in cheek because you need them to make sure those you're going to accredit are truly professional in what they do.
Yeah.
But a lot of the restrictions add work that is eating up the time of the teacher's creativity, which could be poured back in. Our faith, our faith's founder, of course, was Jesus, and one of his sayings is a student will be like their teacher.
Yeah.
So if a teacher can't learn enough to be creative because they're busy doing all this red tape stuff, that I'm so busy, I'm probably not going to check anyways. So let's do away with less. We got a lesson plan, but let's do away with having to turn them in, go through this. This block has to be checked. That block has to be checked. This block has to be checked. And we got to fill out this form and that form, which really aren't essential to what happens when I have a student sitting right in front of me and I'm trying to give them the best life lesson, uh, critical thinking skills, actual work with tools as they evolve, and create something that I know is going to impact where I live, no matter where that is in the world, when I'm an adult, maybe married and raising a family.
I think that's a perfect segue. Uh, I would love to give it to the audience if they would want to reach out to you. What would be the perfect way to do so?
Oh, superintendent, that's my title, superintendent at, and then we have a string of initials in B for Berrien, B for Baptist, A for Academy, F for Fayetteville, N for North, C for Carolina, BBAFNC .org.
Thank you so much for your time. This has been absolutely wonderful. I hope our listeners enjoyed it as much as I did having this conversation with you.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me on, and I'm glad y'all reached out.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty.
Thank you for watching. Join our journey at Tomo Club